Yeah, it says we're live. So,
Good.
good morning. How are you?
I'm great, Devin. How are you?
I am
Thanks
doing
for having
awesome.
me here.
Of course, great to catch up. How is life up north?
Life is beautiful. It's fall. The trees are turning. I know you're in New York, so you're seeing that too.
Yeah,
It's my favorite season.
it actually is my favorite season as well. People think that winter is my favorite season, but I love the the changing of the leaves, just the amazing colors that we get from
Me
fall.
too. Me
And
too.
then,
If
and then
only
after
winter was a little shorter, but we're going to enjoy fall and its beauty for all it has.
Yeah, what's so interesting is when I was bobsledding, people go, "So, do you like the winter?" And I would say, "I love it," and it was true. I mean, I wasn't BSing. I actually loved it. And then when I moved to New York, and
Uh-huh.
I was experiencing my first winter, and I wasn't bobsledding. I'm like, "This is miserable." So I
Yeah.
realized that the joy that I had an experience in winter was because I was, hurling down a track at 80, 90 miles an hour.
Damn. Yeah, I think it's the attitude also you have to bring to it. You can't like hunker down for 6 months, otherwise it's excruciating. So winter sports, that you got into winter sports from Jamaica is of course amazing.
Yeah, well, I've always been strange,
Nice.
just different. No, it was just a wonderful opportunity that kind of landed on my doorstep. I think when you're pursuing a dream, sometimes the universe just go, as we say in Jamaica, hey, here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Well, makes sense.
yeah. So yeah, we're hanging out. We're kind of waiting for some folks to join. Nobody has joined us yet, I don't think, but that's all right. We're streaming on LinkedIn here, of course, on Facebook, and for some reason, and I apologize to my friends on Facebook, for some reason, when I'm on this platform, I'm not getting the comments from Facebook. I only see them after I've concluded the live stream. So feel free to comment anyway. Maybe we'll get lucky and it will happen. But yeah, John, thanks again for hanging out with me this morning. Why don't you tell our friends, our guests, what it is that you do? Give us a little background.
I am a leadership development consultant, but I focus solely on communication. Truth is, if you can't communicate well, Devon, I don't know how you could ever lead anybody. So that's my focus area. And I've been doing it here in Toronto for the last 7 years. I've spent, I don't know, the last 17 years outside of Jamaica. You and I have that connection. We're both Jamaicans living a foreign.
But yeah, unfortunately for you, you're not a bobsledder. Hush.
I know I'm not. I'm not a bobsledder. I have taken up skiing, but I'm not a bobsledder.
Well, and you have Canada, so all right. So 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
Right. So I help people. I help people speak more clearly, and quite often that my work has taken me to working with women and helping them better represent themselves by their word choices and how they
Mhm,
show up.
mhm, mhm. So communication, I dabble a little bit, when I speak on leadership and teamwork and so on, I, touch on the business of communication. And one of the challenge I think when people hear the word communication or communicate is they think of a one-way street, me saying something to you, but it's
Yeah.
not, is it?
No, no. That's talking at people.
Hmm.
And communication by definition is, a dialogue. It's a two-way street.
Yeah, yeah,
Listening is a big piece of communication, which is hard to get right. We're up in our heads thinking about what we're going to say next. That's so wicked and wonderful without listening
yeah.
to, really respond to the person.
Yeah, it's a real challenge. Yeah, and I hear it all the time, and I am aware of it in myself that I'm having what is supposed to be a dialogue with
Yes.
somebody, and they're talking, and I've already, as you say, come up with a brilliant response
Hmm. I know.
before
You're
they're
human.
even done. Yeah, Yeah,
This is what we do. This is we have to really actively stop ourselves, and it comes with practice for sure.
absolutely. Hey, Dave, thank you for joining us, bro. How are you doing over there? I think you're in Wisconsin, right? Cheesehead. Um, he wants to know, and I was going to ask you about women. If you focus, what led you to work with women primarily, I guess, and what group of women do you focus on working with? The professionals or students that Dave wants to know.
Okay, mostly professionals, Dave. I live here in Toronto, and for the last 7 years, pre-COVID, I was in these tall towers downtown running workshops. And there was one constant, I can admit, in every workshop I ran, and that would be somebody who was so bright would be using words that made you think, hmm, why do they sound like they're not confident? Why are they saying words like, hey, listen, I'm no expert, right? But maybe we could consider looking at, and then they would give a great idea and you couldn't hear the great idea. So this would happen week in, week out, Dave. And I noticed it was mostly women. Men do it too, to a much lesser extent, this business of self-diminishing language. So I have a daughter, and I'll be honest, 2 years ago, she came home doing it. And that was a day that I said, no, I need to do something more than just help the one people in my workshops and create a program, because these habits get embedded,
Mm-hmm.
but they can be broken and replaced.
So you use the word self-diminishing, and I think one of the things that can endear you to others and really show a sense of comfort with oneself is to make self-deprecating remarks. Do you see? Are we playing semantics here, or do you see a difference?
Ah, that's really interesting. It comes also down to the culture. So humor and self-deprecating humor, we know and associate with Brits. And sometimes it's used to great effect.
Mm-hmm.
So I like to make the distinction, Devon, between when you make a purposeful decision to use some self-deprecating humor, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
versus when it's coming out of your mouth and you don't even realize it. So
Right.
it's habitual. And so I think if self-deprecation has become habitual for you, it's something to look at and ask yourself, why am I doing this? Is it for me to feel comfortable? Because sometimes it is. I'm a little nervous. So if I make a joke, I start to feel good and then I can go from there. But that may not play into what the audience needs from you.
Mm-hmm.
They may need something very different. So I think it's really useful to go go deep and try to figure out, why is this habit one that I think is working for me, and
Mm-hmm.
question it.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense. But because I can see how. I mean, I use self-deprecating humor, and maybe, and you mentioned, we're all kind of British influenced, so maybe I've never thought of it before. Maybe that's where it came from, the Don Brits. um,
Yeah.
but I like to think that I'm funny at times.
Yeah.
My kids certainly don't think that.
Right.
But I'm like, admit it, I am funny. And they're like, no, you're not. But so I like to use self-deprecating humor, but yeah, I think I draw that distinction between, you know, making fun of myself, because I really don't take myself too seriously. I'm just, I
Right.
bleed blood like everybody else. I'm working hard and I want to do some stuff, but hey, this is still me. Um,
Right.
versus, diminishing myself. I it's hard for me to, I want to say, take play second fiddle. I don't know. Just see
Yeah.
myself as less than.
I hear you. You know, Devin, you and I met 2013 when you were taking that stage in Jamaica, that TEDx event.
Is that so? Is that long ago? My
It's
God.
that long ago. I know time flies.
Yeah.
But so you met me as a coach, bringing people on stage.
Yeah.
And so this brings me to, how do you open up a speech? So some people might say self-deprecating humor works for me. So that might be one option.
And I actually
Others,
use that on that speech too.
did you?
Yeah.
So another approach I've seen people do is they'll say, boy, Joanne, I'm so nervous. So usually I tell people, I don't like to public speak and I'm really nervous. I'm sure you've seen people do that too,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? So that's a choice they're making. Does that serve their audience? Probably not. Because the audience is thinking, oh God, I don't want this person. They start to feel anxious for the person.
Mm-hmm.
Versus my coaching has always been, do what you have to do in advance to feel your most powerful, so that you can open up in a way that gets your audience excited to hear what's next. Yes, nerves are going to hit us.
Yeah.
How do we manage them so that the opening might transform into something more like, good morning, I'm happy to be here with you.
Yeah.
And off you go.
That's interesting because I have read many times, and I believe in being authentic and being true. That, hey, if you're nervous, it's okay to tell the audience that you're nervous. And I don't have a big bone to pick with it, but I have to agree with you because it's not like I'm never ever nervous when I go speak. I'm always nervous.
For sure.
And if I'm not nervous, then I get worried. I'm like, why aren't you nervous? Because I think nervousness says you want to do well.
I
And
agree.
perhaps it's, well, I've practiced visualization now for 100 years, although
Mhm.
I'm only 99. Uh, and so, just visualizing, like I say, feel how confident you want to be when you step on stage, right? Feel, first of all, practice. So I say this all the
Yeah,
time. I actually said that, I think yesterday I did a live. During my military training, they taught us the 7 P's. Prior preparation and planning prevents piss poor performance. So you
right.
practice, 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 practice
Yeah,
to include the feeling of being confident. Doesn't mean
I
that you
agree.
won't be nervous when you're getting ready to start, but I promise you,
Yeah.
you, yeah, I go on and like when we met, I was relating an experience I had in Mobay where the girls saw me with, talk about communication, um, with my duffel bag from Nagano with the Jamaican flag and the rings. And
Hmm.
she asked me, I'm going to translate from our American friend. She asked me what I did for Jamaica, and I said I was on the bobsled team. And she just like, oh my God, how did you get so fat? You know,
What?
yeah. And,
And
and
you
so,
said that's muscle, honey.
well, and she would not let it go. She called her friend. Don't you remember him? He was
Oh
on the
my God,
bobsled team.
no,
But
Devon.
yes, I told the story, and I'm like, that's the
Yeah,
thing with Jamaicans. They know how to cut. I'm this big 3-time Olympian, and she cut me down to
yeah,
size boy, right? And but I find it funny, right? And it's self-deprecating, and it got the audience laughing. And then I said, but
yes,
anyway, seriously, da da
right.
da da da, and you kind of get into it. So with women, talk to us. Why do you think there's this propensity for them to use self-diminishing language?
I think many women have been socialized to be agreeable, and habits form when we're young, and they come from, being told, don't be bossy.
Mm-hmm.
You want to be nice, you want to be liked. And I think a lot of these messages are there in the ether. They come through. They're in the media. They're in the way women are portrayed. So we pick these things up. So what I have found in my research is the number one reason why women diminish is that they don't want to be seen as aggressive or strident or bossy or bitchy. And you'll hear people like Madonna talk about that. You'll hear
Hmm.
people like Hillary Clinton. I think last week, Kamala Harris did an incredible job of managing to stay assertive because she would know, as have the other women I've mentioned, the perils of the double bind, which means a woman, when she says the exact same thing as a man, can be perceived differently.
Yeah, agreed.
So there's this line you have to walk. So we know this. And so I am not about helping women look aggressive. Who wants that?
Hmm.
I'm about helping women not overcorrect into self-diminishing passive language
Right.
and get it back to an assertive way. Because I believe, Devon, when we were little, before people had told us what we should and shouldn't do, most little kids knew how to be assertive.
Yeah. Hmm.
I want to go to the park and I want you to come with me. They wouldn't say things like, look, I'm no expert at going to the park. And I think it would be nice if
Right.
maybe you would consider perhaps. Nobody talk like that.
Today, maybe later on, please, or if you didn't want to go, say, no, I don't want to do that. I'm going to go play marbles. See ya.
Right.
Kind of thing. By the way,
Yeah.
Nikki Woods, thank you for joining us. She's another Jamaican, by the way.
Hi, Nikki.
There's too many Jamaican. And Gary Napier, great to see you, bro. What's up? Jamaican. Oh, man, the place is being. Hey, Dave, you're outnumbered, bro.
We're welcoming though, Dave. So you
Yeah,
stick with us.
yeah. Hey, Hutch, thanks for joining us, man. So, yeah, good point, because, there is this. Sometimes people misconstrue you being assertive to being aggressive.
Definitely.
Um, no, I'm not. I think the issue is with them as opposed to you. But I think again, as you said, in society we are conditioned, right, to believe that women should be passive, and so
Some people some people have those perceptions, Devon.
my view is too many people, because when you talk about women in leadership and when they can't say the same thing that a man says without being looked at funny, without.
We have to manage it, Devon. We have to manage it. Like Kamala was managing it with smiling and showing that she was being approachable while keeping her language strong and assertive.
Mhm,
That's the holy grail
mhm.
because people's perceptions are the reality that it serves us to pay attention to.
Yeah,
I'm not going to not be me, but I will never diminish myself. But I also don't want to be seen as aggressive because that doesn't serve me.
right, right. Whether man or woman, it doesn't serve you. I mean, I
Correct.
don't, because nobody wants to be dominated, and Hutch mentioned that he's a yardman as well. Well, respect, respect. um, yeah, I do not take kindly to people trying to dominate me and be
Right,
over aggressive. Like I push back. It's just in my nature. I don't want to dominate people, and I
right.
don't want to be dominated as well. And so, yeah, you're right. And look, all of us are in leadership positions, whether or not you have a title. You have kids, you're a leader,
Right,
right?
right.
And we have to remember that. And you and I probably grew up during a time when the philosophy was that children should be seen and not heard. And
Hmm.
that ain't no great way to communicate. And I kind of laugh with my kids. We were talking about them earlier. I'm like, you're lucky you don't have a dad like mine, right? Because we get to have this conversation and they get
Right.
to voice their opinions, which is not how we were raised. But I think, and I have girls, I have boys and girls, but especially
Hmm.
girls, I think it's important
I
that
do
they're
too.
not conditioned in the way that the previous generation was.
Yeah. So we're their role models, and I I had my same daughter I told you who 2 years ago came home self-diminishing. I almost had an aneurysm,
Yeah.
and I can tell you, Devon, she's in grade 8 now, And last week she made a video. She wrote the script herself. She filmed herself because that's what they do
Mm-hmm.
easily, because she was going for the head of the yearbook committee. And you know what she said to me at the end of it? Well, she said, "Mommy, take a look and read it and see if there's anything you can add." I read it and my heart exploded. I said, "This is perfect. Run it."
Mm-hmm.
It is assertive, beautiful.
Nice.
And she did the film, and she said to me, "I didn't diminish at all." I said, "That's right.
There you go. Good.
Didn't."
Good. So how do you help women, especially my friend Dave was it says there's a goal to help them progress without content within sorry within current companies or help those changing careers. Um, so I guess it's either and
Sure,
but what advice do you give to them?
I'll speak to that. Yes, for sure. It's on Zoom calls, Dave. It's when suddenly you were able to have better voice in the meeting because people saw you. But now the New York Times says that more often than not, women are unlikely to turn on their video cameras. And so it's harder to be heard. So it could be just in these COVID times, making sure you are still representing yourself confidently, because communication has changed a lot. That's A. B, if you wanted to change jobs or careers, you got to sell yourself. So
Talking about
if
that yesterday.
if you're afraid to come across as being a bit, I can't self promote, which is in the literature also harder for women,
Hmm.
imposter syndrome, etc., then you need to be able to say, "Listen, I believe I can add this sort of value to your company and I'm the right person for the job." If you're self diminishing, it sounds very different. And the perception is going to not serve the candidate.
Hmm.
I've also worked with women who aren't working outside of the home, but they just want to help their kids because their kids have said to them, "Boy, mommy, I hear you say you're sorry all the time. What are you sorry for?"
Hmm. True. True. And that's I think it reflects a level of lack of confidence and low self-esteem in oneself, because the first words, and I hear it all the time, and I go, oh, the first words that come
Mm,
out, I'm sorry, and there's like, I'm not sure why you're sorry.
no kidding.
There's nothing to be sorry for.
See,
Sorry.
Devin, that's interesting because that's how you're perceiving it. This person lacks confidence. Meantime, it could just be a habit. This person, they don't even realize they're saying it all the time. That's what I've found in my work. Most people don't even know. That's why I
Mhm.
did a quiz, a 2-minute quiz. So you can find out, are you diminishing or not? Because for many, it's an unconscious habit.
Yeah.
So I would hear people say stuff like they're at the meeting, in the meeting room, they have an idea to add, and they'll say something like, "Hey, I'm sorry, I just want to add."
Yeah. No, you just
Yeah,
want to add.
no.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about, in addition to that, here's what I'm thinking, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
It's going to sound different.
Yeah.
People
Yeah.
hear you better.
I agree. So assertiveness is really about confidence, right? It's really about believing in yourself. And I do this. It's an army thing. You're being
Yes.
assertive. Like, this is where we're going. Follow me.
I think it's choosing your verbals and non-verbals that match the inner confidence.
Hmm.
So it's not just the words, but it's how you say them, Devon. So I'm standing up. So if I move back a little bit and I'm nervous and I start to do this kind of thing, it doesn't matter if my body, if my words are assertive, because suddenly
Right.
I'm really happy to be here. You're thinking, no, you're not.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
So
if you're so happy to be here, tell your body.
right, it's got to be in sync.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think the assertiveness is part of where's your head at, because that's going to drive your words.
Hmm.
And and you need to match it with your body language.
Yeah. Completely. It's really uncanny because I was just yesterday, I spoke last week, I spoke about, making that first impression. And yesterday I spoke about selling yourself. Uh,
Okay.
yeah. And I actually did talk about, your body language and the use of your hands. And if you're standing there kind of doing this, it's, it sends a very different message from if all the other things that you can do with your hand,
Right.
like a myriad of other things that you can do that really gives that sends a different message. Um, so I'm kind of reminded of when I was joining the army, we had to do this impromptu speech. It's 3 minutes. You had to speak on one subject, a
Okay.
subject with just one word.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah,
What
and
was
so
yours? Do you remember?
communism. I can't forget because I
Oh
didn't
my,
know what the hell I was going to say.
oh my God. Communism was your word?
Communism, one word.
Wow.
And I just walked up to the front of the room and I just said, "Gentlemen, the topic on which I'll be speaking is communism." And I said, I think I said Abraham Lincoln said, democracy is government of the people, by the people, for the people. And I know I completely bastardized the quote, but it was the I think the body language, as you were talking about, the confidence with which I
Yes.
approach just standing there pretending. Sometimes you have to do that. That I knew
Yeah.
what I was saying, uh,
Right.
and I got through my 3 minutes beautifully.
Oh, Devin, I love that story. Yeah, nobody's here to be perfect. Nobody's interested in that. Your audience doesn't care. But you walk up on stage, which I happen to think is a Jamaican superpower. This swagger that seems to be in our DNA
Yeah.
is something, having lived in 4 other countries, I really know and appreciate about Jamaica and what we bring. We don't want it to get too much, on the
Mhm.
aggressive side,
Yeah. Although
but
it can be.
we can be. And so there's space to modulate, to make sure you're hitting the right notes, because
Yeah.
it's not common. And we often take it for granted. But not living
That's
in
true.
Jamaica, I love it. I love being able to bring some of the Jamaican natural assertiveness
Yes. Yeah.
to the wonderful people I work with here in Toronto.
So, on that note, and I know you have a special event coming up. Would you like to talk to us about that?
Sure, I would. Today's the last day that people can register for my Deactivate Self-Diminishing Language program. It's only 2 weeks long. People from England are in it, America, Canada. And the idea is to come together and to be aware of what sort of language habits you might have that you can strengthen by changing them into more assertive verbal habits. So we start, the pre-work is today. You can find all the details on my website, which is, I think, scrolling below, vate.ca. And the program is called Deactivate Self-Diminishing Language. It's my favorite program, I must
Mhm.
say, because I know it has the power to change lives. So I
Indeed.
love the work.
Indeed. So yeah, so deactivate self-diminishing language. Just hey, jump on man, www.vate.ca, because she's in Canada. Although
Correct.
she is from JA, the JA is Jamaican in Canada. Um,
Right.
is going to introduce you to some of that Jamaican superpower, as Hutch, agreed enthusiastically. But I think it's important. Look, that we show up in the world as ourselves, and the goal of practically all the work I do is to help you to show up, to become your best self, and a part of that comes down to how you communicate, how you sell yourself, if you will,
Yes.
how effective and confident you are at projecting and talking about who you are,
Yes.
and that's what you're doing.
Yes. And it's great work, and I love that you are making such a difference as you evolve your career, and your story is inspirational. I have shared it with many people, so I thank you for bringing me here and letting us chat.
Thank you. You're only telling people because you're Jamaican, and sorry,
No.
sorry, my American friends, them boys, you see. They're show-offs. No, it's been awesome. Thank you for that. I acknowledge it, and yeah, that's the goal though, to I spread part some of that Jamaican superpower as you're doing, and fortunately, I have a platform
Yes.
as the one I do to do it. If you want to connect with Joanne, by the way, jl@vate.ca is where you'd find her. And don't forget that you can jump on our website at vate.ca. Register, man, today, and join the training tomorrow to get some of that super power. Joanne, it's been awesome. Great to catch up with you, albeit virtually. And thank
Yes.
you for sharing this amazing information.
Thank you, Devon. A pleasure.
Always.